So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the airport operations and communications mini course. This is one of many of the mini courses we have, and keep in mind all these mini courses are included in the Learn to Fly courses. So we're going to go down here, we're going to go into that course. So here the course is really two primary areas here. Number one, the airport patterns and proper and concise communications, so you can communicate well in the pattern and coming into the pattern, getting out of the pattern. This is all in addition to the see and avoid visual scanning and lighting systems that is the basis for safety in the pattern. So what we do is we go down to our first lesson, 8.1, airports, communications, non-traffic airports. So we're going to go into that. Okay, so here we're into the lesson. Objective for the student to become proficient, understand non-towered airport operations, operating the pattern, entering the pattern, and exiting the pattern. So we've got some assignments here. The first is to watch the video. Now this video is 15 minutes long, and it talks about how to enter the pattern, how to exit the pattern. We'll go and look at that.
Hi, this is Paul Hamilton. This course is on non-towered airport operations and communications. It turns out that there's a lot of good information on towered airports, but hardly any information on non-towered airport procedures and communications. So we're going to be going over all that. So just to be clear, towered operations is when you have an air traffic controller telling you what to do. Non-towered operations is pilot controlled. The pilots control the operations and the communications. And that's what we're going to cover right here.
So what we're going to do is we're going to look at this in two parts. Part one is pattern operation. This is where we adjust our speed and pattern size to account for different speeds and category of aircraft, and how to enter and exit the pattern. So when we go through on the video here, we've got all kinds of stuff here where we go to the FAA handbook. We look at the different methods of getting into the pattern there. We talk about what would be the optimum way to do that. We also go into what very many people don't quite understand is the different speeds for the different types of aircraft. So we all go around the pattern at the same time. And different ways to enter the pattern. There are some times when the coming over and doing this teardrop into a 45 downwind is best. Other times when it's best just to come over midfield and join the downwind. So we go over all that on the best ways to enter the pattern. And in addition to the video, we also have assignments of looking at the Airplane Flying Handbook, Chapter 7, which here we have a direct link to that, which goes over our airport traffic patterns. And our Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge, a direct link to that. Airport patterns. And additionally, we have another non-towered airport operations and communications document that I wrote that covers what we've covered here, which goes over a lot of the same stuff that we've done in the video in great detail, so you can take that with you. And once we get done with our 4 assignments, we go down and we take our quiz. So here we've got, one of 22 questions. And we go through our quiz, we grade that. We got to get at least an 80% on that to progress to the next lesson. So here we go on to our next lesson, which talks about our communications. Again, we've got the video. This is quite extensive because communications are pretty darn important. Now, before we get started, we need to realize that communications is another tool to avoid midair collisions in addition to the standard procedures of see and avoid, visual scanning, and using your lighting systems. So we're going to go into our advisory circular. Subject, non-towered airport flight operations. This advisory circular goes over some of the airport patterns and things we've been discussing earlier. We do an example of what not to do. We talk about what to do. We actually listen to other communications, go over that, and we talk about the correct terminology. One of the problems here is that people have been using terminology over the years that is not correct, and it's actually dangerous. And here we have an example of what not to do. And we talk about the communications of entering the pattern and exiting the pattern and what communications to use to accomplish this. And one of the interesting things is here a lot of people use departing as they're entering the runway. That's completely wrong. And this is covered here in detail in our advisory circular of airport communications. And another problem area is entering on a 45 to a downwind. We want to be exact on those, and we want to communicate properly in the pattern with as short words as possible. So we watch our video, then we go down to radio communications, part 2 of our document. We look at that, and then we go ahead and take another quiz. So here we have 11 questions. Then we move on to our non-towered pattern communication scenarios. This is where we actually go out and fly. We actually do a full hour flight. We fly to different airports. We listen to the communications, talk about what to say, what not to say. We look at the mistakes of other pilots. We also look at our ADS-B in and correlate that to what we hear from the pilots out there. So we're integrating our ADS-B in with our visual scanning, with our communications. And we go to a number of different airports. And for actual flying scenarios, we do have a quiz for that. Now these questions are a little bit more technical because they go into a number of scenarios of which we've covered in our last portion here. Again, you go through that, you get an 80 on that.
Well, there you go. We've taught you how to get into the pattern. We've taught you how to get out of the pattern. We've talked about the correct terminology. We've actually been out on a number of scenarios of operating in the pattern, giving you the proper communication techniques, criticizing techniques that weren't so good. So what you can do is take your companion document, get out your little cheat sheet here, which goes over how to get into a pattern, how to get out of the pattern. In summary, use that as your basis and use that for communication and flying.
And then we move on to our towered air sports operations. So what we do here is we simply go through the full Class Charlie operations, going into an airport, going out, using all our different approach, tower, ATIS, all our necessary items here for communicating in the towered airport.
And this is Paul Hamilton, thanking you for sticking with me. Have a good flight.